प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित् सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्न जागर सुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणाम् मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानम् विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। Hari Om. Welcome back to Gems of Bhagavad Gita. We will continue from where we left off. So we completed our discussion of the select verses of chapter 15, and we are marching forward now. Now I will say we are in the final lap. In the final lap, जब किसी भी एथलेटिक्स मीट में आपने अगर देखा होगा, मैं ओलंपिक्स बहुत देखता हूँ जब भी होती है, या फिर कोई एशियन गेम्स या फिर कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स होती है तो मैं बहुत देखता हूँ। और वहां पे अगर लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस का कोई इवेंट होता है, लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस रनिंग का, जो एथलेटिक स्टेडियम में जो एक रनिंग ट्रैक होता है अराउंड द फील्ड एंड लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस का रनिंग होता है, तो सपोज 15,000 मीटर्स या 10,000 मीटर्स का कोई इवेंट होता है, तो उसमें सारे रनर्स जो है, जो आई थिंक 10-15 राउंड मारते हैं, 20 राउंड मारते हैं, ऐसा कुछ। एक राउंड इज 400 मीटर्स, सो यू कैन डू द मैथ। 20 राउंड मारते हैं, 25 राउंड मारते हैं 10,000 मीटर के लिए, एंड मारते रहते हैं। वहां पे उस समय कुछ कैमरा उनके ऊपर नहीं रहता है, वो कैमरा किसी और इवेंट पे रहता है या फिर कुछ। बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू द एंड, द लास्ट लैप, after finishing 24 laps around the field, when it comes to the last lap, तो एक घंटी बजती है just to notify everyone this is the last lap. So अभी मैं घंटी बजा रहा हूँ। हमने एक मैराथन रन किया है, एक लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस रन किया है over the last few months, and now we are in the last lap. You may say, okay, it's not the last lap, it's a third last chapter, but now we are going to start a discussion which is going to lead to the conclusion. It's going to lead to the conclusion. So we are going to start chapter 16, the select few verses we want to take up from chapter 16 today, the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And very interestingly, first thing before we jump right into it, first thing that we notice out here is that, just one second, it's not opening for some reason. Sorry. Yes. The first thing that we notice is that there's again a shift in the kind of discussion happening. Chapter 15 was a very subtle chapter. हम बड़े ही सूक्ष्म फिलॉसफी के बारे में चर्चा कर रहे थे। अश्वत्थ से हमने शुरू की थी, एंड हमने क्षर अक्षर उत्तम पुरुष के बारे में चर्चा की कल। एंड दीज ऑल वेरी सटल कॉन्सेप्ट्स। हमने चर्चा की वेकिंग, ड्रीम, डीप स्लीप के स्लीप्स ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस के बारे में। एंड दिस इज नॉट समथिंग वी डिस्कस एवरी डे, बिकॉज अगर हम एवरी डे ये करेंगे, दिस विल टर्न इनटू एन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कशन, इट विल टर्न इनटू एन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कस। The idea of this class is not to give you intellectual discourse on philosophy. The idea of any class is not to make you a scholar. It is to bring you back. After a point, an intellectual discourse will become a mechanical activity. अच्छा, ये क्वेश्चन है, इसका ये आंसर है, आंसर ढूंढो। हम आंसर ढूंढने नहीं आए हैं, मतलब लॉजिकल आंसर ढूंढने नहीं आए हैं। हम अपने अनुभव करने आए हैं। हम कुछ सीखने आए हैं जो हम अपने अनुभव में अप्लाई कर सके और आगे बढ़ सके अपनी जर्नी में, अपनी स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी में. सो व्हाट वी सी इन दिस शिफ्ट फ्रॉम चैप्टर 15 to 16, एंड दिस इज माय गेस, आई डोंट नो, ऐसा कुछ किसी ने कहा नहीं है, दिस इज माय गेस. जब भी हम बड़ी कुछ सूक्ष्म चीज के बारे में चर्चा करते हैं, तो चांसेस आ कि सम पीपल थोड़ा टर्न ऑफ हो जाते हैं. टर्न ऑफ मतलब कुछ समझ में नहीं आता, कुछ क्लियर नहीं है, नॉट एवरीथिंग कुड बी अंडरस्टूड. तो एक एक अटेंशन चली जाती है, एंड उस अटेंशन को वापस लाने के लिए ऐसी चर्चा करनी पड़ती है जो वो रिलेट कर पाए. सो यू हैव टू ब्रिंग द डिस्कशन बैक टू अ लेवल. Subtle philosophy is very high. How much can you talk about it? Only extremely evolved people can relate to it beyond the point. मैं जितना भी कह दूं, waking dream deep sleep, waking dream deep sleep, how much will you be able to relate to it? Initially it may be interesting to you, but beyond the point you'll be like, achi, he is just repeating himself. Ramana Maharishi, and this is what makes Ramana Maharishi. Ramana Maharishi was transfixed in a thought. कहानी है कि उनके घर में, आई थिंक उनके कजन का देहांत हुआ था. आई थिंक दे पास्ड अवे. ही वाज अ यंग चाइल्ड, ही वाज अ यंग बॉय, एंड witnessing the body lying on the corpse, lying on the floor, he got transfixed into a thought. He started contemplating upon the nature of birth and death. He began wondering, what is it that has died? The body is still here. What is it that has passed? What is the nature of birth and death? What is the procession of life? These are the questions he was asking himself. And it wasn't simply a कहते हैं शमशान वैराग्य. It wasn't simply a शमशान वैराग्य. Everybody generally asks this question for a little period of time when there is a challenging situation like this. It's called samshan vairagya, the vairagya you feel in a time of samshan, in a samshan ghat. Everybody starts becoming very philosophical at, in certain turns of events, but that feeling passes. Everybody becomes very philosophical when we start talking about waking dream deep sleep, but that feeling passes, that thought passes. You're like, acha, okay, let's move to something more relevant, something more practical, people will say. The problem is that you are not able to contemplate, I am not able to contemplate upon this knowledge. What is the nature of this reality? I am not able to stick with this thought. It's a very uncomfortable thought that this waking state is just a dream. If this thought truly grabs you, you won't be able to move away from it. If what we have discussed in chapter 15, Shara Akshara Uttama Purusha, if it grabs you, you will not be able to move from your seat. You will not be able to think of anything else. But the point is, it's almost impossible that we get transfixed in a thought. We have to be a Ramana Maharishi. That thought of reality, that query, that inquiry caught his attention, and he didn't look back. He left home. He went in his search. He went to the local Shiv Mandir, I think there was a Shiva temple. And then he went into the Arunachala hill. And the rest is history. The rest is history. I hope if you all get the chance, do visit Arunachala in Tamil Nadu, where Ramana Maharishi had his ashram and where he meditated, and that mountain where he did, you do a parikrama. When you go there, you do a parikrama. That was the parikrama he used to do with his whoever was around him. He didn't speak for years. He just became quiet. He just went inward. But it's a rare occasion. It takes a Ramana Maharishi to take a subtle idea and become transfixed with it. For the rest of us, we are able to discuss it, we're able to contemplate upon it for some time, and after that it passes. After that, we get distracted. So to bring back your attention, we have to give you something that is more relevant to you, something that is more relevant to your experience, some more practical Vedanta. I'm not saying there's a practical and impractical Vedanta. I'm only using the language which you will relate to, something that you can relate to in your day-to-day experience. So that's the shift we see in from chapter 15 to 16. We talked about the highest philosophy, and suddenly Bhagavan shifts the conversation. He says, okay, let's come back to something more relevant for you, Arjuna. Let's come back to the qualities of the demonic and divine. Let's come back to the qualities of the divine and demonic. Let's talk about the negative and positive qualities in any being, because that is more relevant to you. Forget about waking, dream, deep sleep right now. That's not for you to be. You're not qualified to think about that yet. It's very relevant. It's very evident. And that's true for 99.99% of us, which is why every day we come to class, I don't start talking about Maya. I don't start talking about the theory of perception. I don't start talking about Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Because this is not something you and I can handle every day. Yes, we ought to think about it as much as we can. But what is more relevant to our experience? How will I keep you engaged, and how will I keep you engrossed in this class? Something that is more relevant to your day-to-day experience, where you are right now. The teacher has to meet the student where they are. The teacher can't be talking about high funda philosophy. See, we always, I don't know, half of us, we never liked mathematics. We never liked mathematics in school. And 8 out of 10 people I ask, you studied mathematics? I was like, oh, I studied mathematics. And why don't we like mathematics? And here's something I'm going to confess. 8 out of 10 teachers in mathematics don't teach properly. 8 out of 10 teachers in mathematics don't teach properly. They teach high funda. They don't come to the level of the student. It's the job of the teacher to lift the student up. You can't expect the student to try to reach. So they speak at a level where only 1 or 2 people can understand the high formulas and concepts. It's the role of a teacher, and teaching mathematics is one of the most difficult but pleasurable things. If I wasn't teaching Vedanta, I would be teaching mathematics. Why not both? Hopefully one day I will also teach mathematics. So the teacher has to come to the level of the student. The teacher has to understand what is the student going to remain engaged with. Otherwise, the student will get... See, in mathematics also, the teacher is not teaching anything wrong. He's teaching the right concepts. But the student can't relate to it. If we keep talking about Maya, illusion, theory of perception, after a point, you won't be able to relate to it. It'll just be words. So we have to come back and engage at the level where we are right now. That is chapter number 16. Chapter 16 begins with, and it's like a shift. It's like a shift in gear almost. It's like a jerk. But chapter 16, it's called Deva Asura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. Deva Asura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. The yoga of the distinction between the divine and the demonic natures. Deva is divine. Asura, demonic. Sampad. Sampad means sampatti, wealth. Your qualities are your wealth. So the divine and demonic sampat, the divine and demonic qualities, the divine and demonic natures. Vibhaga yoga, the distinction. The yoga of the distinction between the Deva and Asura sampattis, the natures. So very quickly, we'll jump into this and we'll notice it's a complete shift from where did Bhagavan start talking about this. But it's very relevant and it's very helpful to you and me. It's another set of qualities that we have. It's another set of qualities which we can relate to and become inspired by and try to emulate, try to achieve, try to measure ourselves as we grow spiritually. He discusses 26 qualities, if I'm not wrong. He discusses 26 qualities of the divine and 20 and about 6 qualities, only 6 qualities of the demonic. 26 qualities of the divine and 6 qualities of the demonic. Why so many divine qualities? Why such few demonic qualities? We'll also look at it as we go. So the first 3 verses talk about the 26 qualities of the divine. The 4th verse talks about the 6 qualities of the demonic, of the asuras. And we will discuss it one by one, starting with verse number 1. We'll chant it together. Shri Bhagavan Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yogya Vavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajnascha Svadhyayastapah Arjavam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajnascha Svadhyayastapa Arjavam. श्री भगवान बोले, अभयम अंतःकरण की स्वच्छता, ज्ञान तथा योग से दृढ़ता, दान, दम, यज्ञ, स्वाध्याय, तप और सरलता. 9 qualities. Shri Bhagavan said, fearlessness, complete purity, steadfastness in knowledge and yoga, charity, self-restraint, yajna, sacrifice. It shouldn't be charity, it should be sacrifice. Yajna, sacrifice, self-study, swadhyaya, austerity, tapaha, and uprightness, arjavam, beautiful quality. So 9 qualities. Right now he hasn't said what these qualities are, but I have already told you these are qualities of the divine. He is just listing out qualities. Arjuna must be wondering, what is he saying suddenly? Arjuna must be wondering, what is he saying? But we are lucky, we get the chance to sit back and discuss this, try to understand this. So the 9 qualities of the divine person. Who is a divine person? Someone who is on the path of spiritual evolution. First of all, there is the difference between the Deva and the Asura is what we should discuss. Who is a Deva? Who is an Asura? The Devas are one who are on the path of evolution. They're not perfect. The Devas are not perfect, but they are on the path of evolution. They've got a higher proportion of Sattva and lesser of Tamas and Rajas. That's what a Deva is. A Deva is predominant in Sattva and lesser quantity of Rajas and very little quality of Tamas. That's what makes you a Deva or Daiva. If you don't have these qualities, you won't be a Deva. Similarly, who is a Asura? An Asura is one who has a predominance of Tamas. And Asura is one who has a predominance of Tamas, some Rajas and very little Sattva. Then you may ask, what about Rajas? Who is one who has predominance of Rajas? A Rakshasa. A Rakshasa is one who has most amount of Rajas, very little Sattva, and maybe more quantity of Tamas. So Deva, Rakshasa, Asura. Here we are talking about Deva and Asura. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. Okay, that's what we have to understand. As your Sattva reduces, you move towards the Asuric scale. As your Sattva increases and your Tamas reduces, you go from being Asura to Daiva. So that evolution is in your own hands. That evolution is in your own hands. That's the effort you have to put in to conquer your Tamas, to control your Rajas, and to cultivate, to grow Sattva. So you can become a Daiva. So what are these qualities? These qualities are the reasons we are discussing. This is because they are indications of growth. We'll be able to measure, are we growing from tamas to sattva, based on how much we can establish these qualities in ourselves. And also, it's about inspiration. You pick up one or two of these qualities. You pick up one of these two of these qualities, and you make it your mantra for life. Pick up one or two of these qualities and make it your mantra for life. So what are these qualities? First of all, abhayam. Abhayam. Simple fact. If you are evolved, you will be fearless. One of the most fundamental qualities of spiritual growth is fearlessness. On the contrary, if you have a lot of fear, it means what? Dilli abhi dur hai. If you have a lot of fear, if you're not able to conquer your fear, if you're not able to control it, we're not criticizing. We are logically and objectively assessing. If there is fear in you, if there is a lot of worry and anxiety in you, it means Dilli abhi dur hai. You haven't got the message. You haven't grown. It's okay. Everybody is on a path of growth. But how will you know that you have grown? How will you know if the penny has dropped? Abhayam. And as you grow spiritually, the amount of fear in you reduces. That's what you have to understand. You don't have to think about, oh, I'm still afraid in life. That means I'm not evolved. It's not 0 or 100. It's not fear or no fear. It's a scale of growth. The more you grow, the less afraid, the less fearful you become. See, to understand this concept of fear, we have to study the 5 causes of fear, the 5 sources of fear. Broadly, there are 5 sources from where fear arises. First of all is ignorance. The most essential primary source of fear is ignorance. Where you lack knowledge, naturally there is fear. When the room is dark, when you're ignorant of what all is there in your way, what will happen? You'll be afraid of where you are going. You'll be afraid of hurting yourself. When you enter a dark dungeon, you're afraid, oh, what if something comes and bites me? When there's light, you're not afraid. The same place you can walk during the daytime, completely calm, peaceful. Where there is ignorance, there is fear. If you haven't studied for your exam, what happens? You have no idea what will come in the question paper. There is fear. When you have studied, when there is knowledge, whatever comes in the exam, whatever comes in the exam, you're not afraid. So knowledge conquers fear. Ignorance sustains and promotes fear. First thing, ignorance. Second is destructiveness. If you have a destructive personality, if you have a personality that is unconscious of the harm it is causing to others, you will be afraid. The world is a reflection of your mind. The world is a reflection of your mind. If you cause destruction, you will be afraid of others causing destruction to you. It's as simple as that. If you cause destruction, you will be afraid of the world causing destruction to you. If you harm others, you will be afraid of the world harming you. That's the fear. Oh, I will be harmed. Oh, I will be destroyed. And that fear grows when you are destructive to others. You conquer the destructiveness in you. You become more conscious and more aware. Not to harm others. I'm not even saying do good to others. Not to harm others. And automatically your fear will be controlled. It's automatic. Meat-eating animals, carnivores, are naturally afraid. They move around like, they're afraid of you. When they know that they have a superior being is around them, they'll be afraid if they are carnivore. But a herbivore is not afraid. A herbivore is gentle. A herbivore is comfortable around you, in your presence. So a herbivore doesn't have a sense of fear. That see, it's not 100%. You might take out one or two examples or instances. It's okay. I'm giving you a trend. I'm giving you an indicative trend. And the more you conquer this feeling of destructiveness, or rather, it may not even be an active destructiveness. It could be a passive destructiveness. You could be not even aware of the kind of destruction you're causing others. But if you just bring in a little bit of consciousness and that intent, I'm not going to hurt others, that itself will conquer a lot of fear in you. The third cause of fear. And we can go on and on about this. I can finish the entire class, and maybe tomorrow also we can start and only talk about this. The third cause of fear, attachment. Attachment, we have discussed it many times. Let me cover it again. Attachment is that feeling, that lagav, that dependency. Attachment is a mental condition. It's a state of mind where you become dependent on a thing or a being. If it's there, you like it. If it's not there, you don't like it. That's the beginning of attachment. The beginning of attachment is you like it when it's there, and you don't like it. It's slightly unpleasant. But that lagav, that attachment, that dependency can grow to devastating levels. What begins as an innocuous like or dislike can turn into a tremendous obsession. And what you are attached to, you are terribly, terribly afraid of losing. What you are attached to, you are terribly, terribly afraid of losing. A lot of things you're attached to and you don't even know. It's called neutralization. A lot of things you are attached to and you don't even know. You want an example? Neutralization means that it doesn't give you any active happiness, but if you lose it, it'll cause devastation. Neutralization means when you what is the state of neutralization? When you get neutralized to something or someone, it means that being around them or being around it or having it doesn't give you any conscious pleasure. But when it's taken away from you, it's devastating. It's terrible. It's horrible. You cannot stand it. What you like initially and you become attached to, you grow to become neutralized to. There are so many things you are neutralized to, which means what? You're not even aware that you are attached to and you're dependent on, but you are so terribly dependent on. There are n number of examples. The first example that comes to my mind, eyesight. You're neutralized to your eyesight. So am I. And when I say you, I mean me also. I'm looking at myself in a mirror through this camera. We're all neutralized to our eyesight. What does it mean? Having it doesn't give us any active pleasure. We don't wake up every morning and say, oh, great, I have eyesight. It's not an active pleasure, but khuda na khasta, as they say. Khuda na khasta. Something happens to our eyesight. What will be your state? What will be my state? Like this, there are n number of things that you are dependent on, that you are so attached to, and you don't even have an idea. Life is very fragile, my friend. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam. Your life is like a drop of water trembling on a lotus leaf. It is so fragile. We have all sorts of attachments. And we live on the brink of fear. We live on the brink of fear. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anything can rattle us. As Guruji was saying yesterday in his class in Viveka Chudamani, एक फोन की घंटी आपकी घंटी बजा सकती है. anything can rattle us. I'm only giving the extent to which we harbor fear. And this is the main reason. You may say, आप डरा रहे हो हमें. मैं डरा नहीं रहा. हाँ, आपकी attachment आपको डरा रही है. And it's a fact. It's a fact. I have no pleasure. I get no pleasure in, and don't take it as a criticism. Take it as objective analysis. I have no pleasure in pointing this out. हमारे गुरु स्वामी पार्थसारथी, he wrote a book called The Holocaust of Attachment. The Holocaust of Attachment. And some people, especially some of his foreign followers, they took a lot of offense to it. How can you call it the Holocaust? Don't you know the Holocaust was a terrible, terrible event that happened in World War II? It happened to the poor Jews. How can you call it the Holocaust? The reason you think the Holocaust is so bad, but attachment is not so bad, that is the problem. Swamiji is not saying that the Holocaust is not terrible. He's saying the attachment, what you're not aware of, is like the Holocaust. It's a slow Holocaust. It's eating into your life day by day. It's causing all the heart diseases in the world. It's causing all the gray hairs and the stress and strain and depression and worry and fear and everything. It's the cause. If there is one cause, attachment. And this subject is not understood. Nobody understands what is detachment. Detachment is not leaving everything away and going into a quiet place away from everything. That is not detachment. Detachment is that ability to withstand. Detachment is that ability to be around everything that you're today attached to be around that and still be free mentally. That is the beautiful quality of detachment, where you live in the din and roar of the marketplace and you take up everything. You do your obligatory duty, and not as a duty, you do it beautifully. You do it beautifully to the best of your ability, but internally you're free. To them his heart, his love, his griefs forgiven. But all his serious thoughts hath rest in heaven, like a tall cliff that lifts its awful form, swells from the veil, and midway leaves the storm. Though round its breast the rolling clouds are spread, eternal sunshine settles on its head. Beautiful six lines by Oliver Goldsmith. A wonderful analogy of a perfect human being, of a detached human being. Who is a detached human being? Not someone who is heartless, not someone who is careless, not someone who leaves everything behind and his responsibilities and runs away from the world. No, a detached person is one or rather, a detached person is one who gives his love, his heart, his grief, his emotions to everyone. To them, his love, his heart, his griefs were given. But all his serious thoughts hath rest in heaven. All his serious thoughts, his intellect, his awareness, he had that knowledge of the highest. He had spiritual knowledge. And what that helped him do? What did that help him do? It was like a mountain, as a tall cliff that lifts its awful form. The cliff rises from the valley. The cliff rises from the valley and rises upwards. And rises off the veil and midway leaves the storm. All the storm of emotions and affectation and pressure and tension and worry and fear and grief and joy and sorrow, all these are the storms of life. But his knowledge allows him to rise and go beyond it. So while his griefs and emotions and joys and sorrows are everything are with the people, there is that knowledge which is helping him rise above it like a tall cliff. And what happens? Though round his breast, around him, near him, the rolling clouds are spread. All the emotions are around him, all the people around him, all the issues and problems and obligations and things are around him. obligations of family, obligations of work, obligations of everything, society, everything is around him. He's playing his part. But eternal sunshine settles on its head. What happens? Like the mountain, it rises above. Huh? Below the clouds are all, making it a murky and dark and clouded area. But what happens? There's a part of the mountain that goes beyond the clouds. I don't know if you've ever done any hiking or you've gone, to a mountainous region, but it's a beautiful experience. When you're climbing the mountain, it's all overcast and dark and dingy. You're thinking, "Arey, barish hone wala hai." But there's this point where you are able to, scale that height beyond, when you rise above the clouds. And when you rise above the clouds, what do you see? You see the clouds are below you. To see this, you have to come to Rishikesh. This is the best advertisement I can give. You have to come to Rishikesh, to the Gita Academy. The Gita Academy is in a place called the Dhuandhar Valley. And the Dhuandhar Valley is essentially a place where the Gita Academy is located pretty much on the top of a hilltop, on the top of the sort of hilly area. And the entire valley below, there's an entire valley below. So from the Gita Academy, when you see on a clear day, you can see, the entire valley going below. You can see some villages all the way down there. And what happens very often, many, many days in a year, the clouds will come and they'll settle above the valley. And the Gita Academy is above the valley, above that clouds. So outside you'll see, it's like, you can walk on the carpet of clouds. All you see is white clouds. So the clouds are below you and you are enjoying the sunshine. So as a tall cliff, coming back to our example, as a tall cliff that lifts its awful form, midway leaves the storm, though round its breast, the rolling clouds are spread. He doesn't run away from those rolling clouds. He doesn't run away from his emotions and all his emotional obligations to people. But that knowledge shines on him like the sun, and that keeps him calm, that keeps him clear, that keeps him completely equanimous. He becomes a source of strength for others. That's what keeps him fearless. That's the detachment. That's the detachment which keeps you fearless. When you understand the facts of life, when you understand the facts of life and you're able to deal with whatever life throws your way. That's the power of detachment. It's not something you and I can understand in one day. It requires fair amount of reflection. But if there is one cause for fear that pervades everyone and everyone has experienced it, it is this: the holocaust of attachment. The fourth quality of fear, the fourth reason of fear, the fourth cause of fear is selfishness. This is a law of life, my friend. My friends, this is a law of life. If you are selfish, you will be afraid. If you are selfish by nature, it's similar to destructiveness. Although a selfish person need not necessarily be destructive, difference in degree. If you are selfish by nature, if all you can think about is I and my, me and mine, if that's all you're concerned about, if that's all you're worried about, you will be afraid. No unselfish person is afraid. Some people ask me, oh, if we become unselfish, to hamara kya hoga? Who will take care of us? Sometimes I feel like telling them, but maybe they won't understand. If you're unselfish, you won't need caretaking. If you are unselfish, you won't need caretaking. इतिहास गवाह है. इतिहास गवाह है. If you develop the spirit of service and sacrifice, people will flock to you. If you develop the spirit of service and sacrifice, people will flock to you. If you are selfish, by nature. You may enjoy a retinue, you may enjoy, a bunch of people around you who are constantly, putting you on a pedestal. You may enjoy some power for a certain amount of time. You may enjoy some success for a certain amount of time, but it's short-lived. Selfishness, the end of selfishness is only fear and devastation and loss. The path to true success, the path to true achievement, the path to a worry and stress-free life is unselfishness. Unselfishness doesn't mean stop thinking about yourself and only think about others. This is the mistake people make. People think unselfishness means अपने बारे में मत सोचो, सिर्फ दूसरों के बारे में सोचो. Please try to get this idea out of your head. Unselfishness doesn't mean you stop, you deny yourself or you ignore yourself. Selfishness is exclusive. What do I mean by exclusive? Selfishness में आप सिर्फ अपने बारे में सोचते हो और दूसरे के बारे में नहीं सोचते हो. Unselfishness is inclusive. Unselfishness is inclusive. You include others. You don't exclude anyone. You don't exclude yourself also. You just include others. You are more aware of the needs. You're more aware of the state and the existence of others. That's it. You're giving them some space in your thought. You're sparing a thought for them. That's it. You don't have to go around and change the world to become unselfish. You don't have to go and create a foundation and do some mass campaigns to become unselfish. Unselfishness is in small acts. It's in small attitudes. It's in small awarenesses throughout the day. It begins with those around you. How conscious and aware are you of those around you? Even strangers who you might meet. When was the last time you asked your taxi driver how they are when they came to pick you up? Namaste bhaiya, kaise hain aap? How much do you acknowledge? Just that acknowledgement of the existence of others. When was the last time you asked your security guard downstairs how they are doing? How was their Holi? आपने तो बड़े धूमधाम से मनाई होगी होली. How did your security guard enjoy Holi? So unselfishness is inclusion of others. I'm not saying you should only make others celebrate and deny yourself. No, that's a mistake people make with regards to selfishness and unselfishness. But so long as you're selfish, so long as you exclude others, so long as you're only concerned about I and me and my, you will be afraid. And the fifth cause of fear is the feeling of otherness. The feeling of otherness. You have a strong distinction between who you are and what others are. And there is a strong separation. If you have a strong feeling of otherness based on the color of your skin, you'll always be suspicious of the others. If you have a strong sense of otherness because of your religious identity, I am Hindu, he is Christian, he is Muslim, there will be a sense of fear and antagonism with the other. So that feeling of otherness. So we will continue this discussion, because what does the spiritual path do? The spiritual path conquers all of this. With knowledge, you conquer ignorance. With knowledge, right now we're going to cover the quality of ahimsa. You conquer destructiveness with a feeling of wanting to not cause harm. That's it. Not be destructive. With knowledge, you cultivate this spirit of detachment. With the spiritual path, you cultivate unselfishness. With the spiritual path, you cultivate this feeling of oneness that will conquer your otherness. So as you grow on the spiritual path, each of these aspects are taken care of. Each of these aspects are taken care of. So with that thought, we will conclude today's class, and we'll continue this topic tomorrow, because this is it'll take us some time. But immediately you can see this is so much relevant to our day-to-day life. So that's why perhaps Bhagwan has shifted the gears and brought us back to something. We were talking about the most philosophical concepts. That is for your manan. That's not for casual chit-chat. That is for your contemplation. But let's come back and perhaps get you more engaged in something you can relate to. With that thought, we'll conclude today's class. Have a wonderful day. Hari Om. Tat Sat. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.